I know I'm not supposed to start for a few minutes, so I'll just take a couple of extra minutes and go. So there's a doctor that goes to the jungles in Brazil to work with a medicine man. And one of those Indian tribes deep in the rainforest. And I'm changing the joke to fit this particular group. And the chief's son comes down with cancer. Doesn't matter what kind. And the medicine man goes and gets herbs and bugs and flowers and roots, and he makes up a tea, and he makes up a paste, and he puts it on the cancer, and within a few days the cancer is gone. Well, the doctor says to the medicine man, you know, back where I come from, we have these pills. It's called chemotherapy. And it helps get rid of, destroy the cancer also that the chief's son had. And the medicine man goes, I've heard of that. Alternative medicine. So it really comes down to, it's our perspective as to what is alternative medicine or not. And you know, when I began changing over from a traditional doctor in 1977, giving people a chance to sit down before we begin. It was called natural medicine then. Then it was called holistic medicine. In a breath, it became complementary medicine, then alternative medicine. And now because of Jeff Bland, it's now called functional medicine. So we're all doing the same thing that we've been doing for the last 40 years, just with a different name behind it all. I think we can begin. Everybody is still getting some coffee and stuff. Give them one or two more minutes. I lectured in Cuba, but when I went to Cuba to present to the heads of research in Cuba just a few years ago, who gave me permission. Ozone therapy, that's what we're going to talk about, is in all 120 clinics and hospitals around the country. It's been used for longer than I've been practicing ozone therapy, 30 years. And so it's very big there. And they gave permission from my workshop that I gave the heads of research for a study to be done in Cuba using my method of ozone to treat things. But it's interesting because in Cuba, ozone therapy, herbal medicine, all that sort of stuff is called traditional medicine. They call pharmaceutical medicine alternative in a sense, is their way of thinking. It's just pharmaceutical medicine. But all the traditional medicines, acupuncture, everything, they call that traditional medicine in Cuba. Okay, so ozone therapy for the treatment of cancer. I've had radio shows off and on where I've guest hosted, been the guest most of my career. I'm actually starting a new one now. I've been pressed to do another one for a change. It'll be a live show, aired on voiceamerica.com, voiceamerica.com. Thursdays, 12 noon Eastern Standard Time, okay? All it's going to be is guest doctors, alternative doctors that are going to talk about what they do, special dentists, naturopaths, all that sort of stuff. Just about everything, the kind of things you're going to be hearing here, but every week. And it'll be archived. You'll be able to go and listen anytime you want. But since it'll be a live show, it'll be a call-in. Most of the weeks I'm not away lecturing. But the reason I say that is because when I was guest hosting for this guy, Gary Knoll, back home in New York, I had the honor and the privilege of having Dr. Linus Pauling. Do you all know who Pauling was? Twice a Nobel Prize winner, and then became somewhat infamous because he decided that you could use vitamin C intravenously to help fight cancer. 20 to 25 grams is what he gave intravenously back then. Now we give 25 to 50,000 at our clinic. But One of the quotes that he gave, in a sense, it wasn't a quote. He said it to me on the show, and I've been using it ever since. It's that whenever your colleagues are not up on something, you'll usually find they're down on it. And it doesn't matter what business you're in, you're going to find that this is the way it is with virtually every business. Now, the purpose of my presentation is to tell you what I've been doing for the last 29 plus years. There's 3 of us, roughly, that have been in practice using ozone, still alive. There are people that came before us here in the US. And in fact, when people ask, gee, this sounds, how new is this stuff really? Well, you wouldn't know who he was, but Charles Kenworthy, who was the president of the Florida State Medical Association, published a book, small book, can't get it, it's in the Library of Congress, and you probably have to, sell your home to get a pass to get in to view it. But his name is Charles Kenworthy, wrote a book called Ozone in Medicine, published in 1885. So ozone was used in this country in the 1880s, as well as through the 1930s, and then an organization came into being called the FDA, and drug companies came into being, and they took over the show. Ozone disappeared. So it wasn't until after World War II that it became big again in Europe because they had no medicine. If you remember your history, we had the Marshall Plan. We rebuilt Europe with the Marshall Plan, but we had no money for medicine for them. So they had to turn to something inexpensive, easy to use, et cetera. And that's where they got more involved using ozone therapy once again. And most of the research, and that's an interesting thing because you'll see we're published now, but most of the research comes out of Russia, Germany, Poland, all the countries that, now Spain a lot, all the countries that had no money, that were devastated and needed a medicine. So I've done a lot. I've done over 345,000 intravenous treatments in the last 29, we began our 30th year, January 1, which is more than all the hundreds of doctors collectively in the United States put together that do ozone therapy. I've trained about a third of them. And by the way, I always want to say this, and that's why I'm going backwards again. No moral and ethical doctor should ever promise or guarantee you a result of any kind. If they do, you should leave skid marks out of their office. Okay? You never, even if you're successful, 10,000 patients in a row, you never know what's going to happen on 10,001. And by the way, not because he asked me to do it, but John Hall is here. He's a PhD from Beljanski, who I've lectured at, and we know each other for a long time. They have some wonderful alternative cancer products. That was a freebie, John. So now, Scripps University, Scripps Research Institute discovered that our own bodies make ozone. This was a little bit surprising, but they published on it because they're easily able to publish. So it shows that our own bodies actually generate, through our immune cells, ozone, which go on to do all the things that I'm going to tell you ozone goes on to do. And these are just, because I have to give this lecture again a little later in the year at an ICIM meeting, an International College of Integrative Medicine meeting, where I'll be doing a training. So I'm going to be giving this as part of I have a whole day of lectures that I have to give. So this is going to be part of it. And it just tells some of the basic things about ozone. So basically, when it enters your blood, through these pathways that you see here up on the screen, it's going to do stuff. What's it going to do? It's going to destroy every virus, every fungus, every yeast, every mold, every parasite, all bacterias, all toxins, and all harmful free radicals are going to be destroyed by it. That's important to understand because it's an oxidative process which generally we're concerned about because oxidation can cause harmful free radicals to form. Well, ozone this is where you got to understand the biochemistry. It acts as a free radical scavenger. Okay? It's an antioxidant in that sense, because we mostly consider our antioxidants as free radical scavengers, getting rid of harmful free radicals. Well, ozone is a free radical scavenger, and there's a simple chemistry that we'll go over in a few minutes. But what it creates is these ROSs and LOPs. The LOPs are very important in cancer because they're lipid oxidation products. Alpha and beta interferon, interleukin number 2, number 6, number 7, number 8. Some say number 9, though I don't know that as a fact. And tumor necrosis factor. So this stimulates your own body after it's doing its own work to create these substances in your body that go on to fight cancer. Plus, we all know that one of the primary causes of cancer is oxygen deprivation at the cellular level. Otto Warburg got a Nobel Prize for that back in the 1930s. Okay? So, and then later on, he got a nomination. He never got the prize, showing that cancer cannot live in the presence of oxygen. Every cancer patient that I've ever seen, well, not every, but many, have all been hypoxic. Their oxygen levels are low, and that's why they like to give oxygen to cancer patients. So there are many different ways of giving ozone therapy. You can give it just for treating local infections. Well, I didn't put the slides up. I go in the sun, and occasionally I get a skin change that I don't like the looks of. I don't wait to figure out what it is. I start shooting underneath it, and within a couple of weeks, it's gone. And I've gotten rid of what I'm certain are skin cancers that way from subcutaneous injections. Intramuscular, rectal insufflation is an ozone enema, so you can attack colon cancer that way. Vaginal insufflation is an ozone douche, so you can attack cervical cancer and HPV. That might be precancerous that way. Bladder insufflation, you just insert a tube into the bladder. Thin little thing, thank God. For a man, and you can put it in there instead of putting tuberculosis in to try to kill bladder cancer. Intradermal topical gas, well, we have a thing called a Hocket, which is a special sauna, so it does the whole body and many other things at the same time. Intraperitoneal, it's interesting because it can be done two ways. One way is you put a little tube through the nose, it goes down into the stomach, and you can put the gas into the stomach for stomach cancer. Anybody here with Lyme disease? Raise your hand. Oh, okay. Well, it took them a while, but the Global Lyme Alliance, okay, you know what that is? They raise millions every year for Lyme research. Finally, because they knew of me several years ago, at their big fundraising meeting, but they weren't interested in what we do. Well, I'm going up next Friday morning to Tufts Medical School with an ozone generator because they won the grant. The GLA is giving them $1.25 million, and I won't get a nickel. It's not good, but it's okay. And they're going to be using the Robbins method of direct intravenous ozone to treat Lyme disease and prove this. This will get published. This could change the whole country as far as ozone is concerned. Now, the reason I say that is because first they're going to use, well, thank you. They're going to use test tubes and then mice, special mice. Now, in mice, you don't have IVs that you can use, so they do it intraperitoneal. So I said, you're going to put a tube down the mouse's nose? How do you? No, they shoot it with a needle right into the stomach. I know, it sounds gruesome, but the IRBs, the independent review boards that oversee studies so that people don't get hurt, are even tougher for animals. And they know all the animals are going to be put away when the study is over, but they're very careful that the animals don't suffer doing this, which is important to me. I got them not to do human primate trials. I said, can't we just skip from mice to humans? And we got approval that they could do that. So we don't have to kill any primates, which was, I'm a big thing with animal rights and not hurting animals. So there's, as you can see, lots of different ways of doing it, but it's the intravenous methods that are the most successful and important. So my buddy Robert Rowan out in California, Robert J. Rowan, and I went to Sierra Leone, and I'm telling you this for a reason, and we were successful in fighting Ebola. You'll not be shocked to find out that Big Pharma got into the mix, got in touch with WHO, and surreptitiously stopped it from becoming very big there to fight Ebola, but we were very successful in fighting Ebola. And here's why, and this is important, this is the reason I'm bringing it up. The reason we're so successful with Ebola and most any virus is the Ebola virus looks like a twisted worm. And all along the outside are little bumps. And the bumps have a chemistry called sulfhydryl groups, sulfur and hydrogen, attached to the virus outer shell. And that's what glues it into your cell and allows the virus to replicate. And that's why Ebola is so deadly and works so well. And why ozone has a marked affinity for this, breaks the double bonds for all the biochemists out there, and then punches holes in the outer bulletproof shell. And by punching holes in the outer bulletproof shell, it can get inside the virus and inactivate it. Okay? In the RNA, it inactivates it. Well, coronavirus, COVID-19, looks like a dryer ball. You know dryer balls? You throw it in your dryer with your sheet, with your clothes. And you know the little bumps on the dryer ball? Yeah. That's sulfhydryl groups and tryptophan with double bonds. We have little doubt that ozone's going to destroy it. There's more to that story, but we don't have time for it today. So we published we want to get a little paper published. Hopefully it's going to be accepted this week from one of them. All the big journals turned it down. They're not interested in what we do. But I do have an in with the government through Marla Maples, who's a close friend and patient. I got her well, and because of that, maybe we'll be able to get someone's ear if they're willing to listen and do something about it. So I published also down at the bottom on mixed mold mycotoxicosis. Ozone destroys mold toxicity. Mold can cause cancer. We all know that. And complex regional pain syndrome. I'm lecturing in Vancouver on that and in Aruba at the medical school on that in just a few months. You don't want to know what complex regional pain syndrome is. It's something that will make you wish you were dead. And I'm the only one in the world that's ever fixed it with ozone therapy using our method. So ozone can treat numerous things, as you can tell from the things I've been saying. I treat two types of problems: infectious diseases and things that will kill you, or things that will kill you like cancer, or conditions and diseases that won't kill you but will make you wish you were dead, like the effects of diabetes and things like that. So these are some of the things that ozone does. Again, this is all science. I just think it's important. I don't know who's going to read this or get copies of this presentation other than the doctors that I'll be lecturing to later this year. But it crosses the blood-brain barrier, so it can get into your brain if there's tumors in the brain. You can use very small veins with this therapy. Teeny, itty bitty veins, because we're using 27-gauge butterflies. Those are baby scalp vein sets. When you have a newborn or premature baby, they don't have arm veins for IV. They use little veins in the scalp. So we can get very small veins with this therapy. It is damaging to veins like any other IV is, even saline. Any IV, veins want to be left alone. But that's one of the few small negatives about it. But if you have a choice, lose a small vein or save a person's life. Lose a small vein or get them well. To me, there's no choice in that. It's easy. It's an easy choice. I found a way, because of Ebola, to do it more than just once a day. Most of my career was made up. Now, remember this. This is so simple. Ozone is medicine. It's just medicine. It's just in a different form than what you used to get. So I found a way to give this medicine safely more than once a day. New York State will put me out of business. Well, let's change that. New York State doesn't care if I kill somebody with a pharmaceutical, because doctors kill people with pharmaceuticals every day of the year. But if I hurt one person with ozone, and believe me, my board knows who I am, I'm out of business. So we take Dr. Do No Harm very, very seriously. And all doctors should. Unfortunately, they don't. If you watch the commercials on TV for some of these drugs that they want to sell you, and you see the list of, and they start telling you all the bad things it can do. Eyeballs will pop out, your breasts will shrivel up, you know, and you may die. Ask your doctor if this is right for you. I never understand that. Now, ozone will cut through biofilm. It stimulates natural stem cell activity. I call that fixing the unfixable, repairing the unrepairable. Keep in mind, if you have cancer, you have a terrible immune system. So yes, it's going to cleanse, detoxify, and boost your immune system up. That's primarily its feature. But it's also going to do these other things, and very few people come in just with one thing. They all have secondary problems, if you want to call them that, running through their body. Ozone's working on it all the time. And that's why there is no average, typical, or usual number of treatments that it takes to fix anybody for anything. It's just the way it is. Thinking of that, I'll throw in, Adela was sent to me on May, I remember this, never forget it, May 6, 1998. The first oncologist said she has 2 weeks to live. The second oncologist was more hopeful. He said, if you live 3 months, it's a miracle. She had late-stage metastasized ovarian cancer. There was nothing they were going to do for her, just go home and die. Well, she went to this Latino naturopath, because she was from Ecuador, who sent her over to me. We started treating her once a day, because back then I didn't have fast track. And we treated her once a day, 5 days a week, sometimes 6. And at the consultation, the family asked me, how long will she have to get the therapy for? And that's when I opened up my big mouth, which I will never do again, and I said, I'll tell you what, after 10 years, I won't charge you. So she saw her daughter get married, raise 3 grandchildren, because the kids go to work, and to this day, because I remembered it in 2008 what I said. I have a weird memory that way. And I keep my word. Honor is important to me. I'm a Rotarian. Very important to me. So from that point on, la terapia está gratis. She's been getting free therapy, and she still comes in 3 or 4 times a year. This is like 20 years later. 3 or 4 times a year, because she wants to grow old and be well. I'm going to be 72 in 2 weeks. I don't dye my hair. My first speaking engagement was in Malaysia at a regenerative medicine anti-aging world congress. They flew me out there on a whole day on how ozone retards the aging process. Now, why doesn't it kill people? And I'm telling you some of this not because you're scientists, but because people want to, some of you I hear may be doctors, and you should know. So the human body has the ability to produce antioxidant enzymes in your cells to protect against damage from oxidative products like oxygen. And these antioxidant enzymes, superoxide dismutase, don't go buy it in the store. SOD can't be absorbed orally. Glutathione peroxidase, glutathione reductase, and catalase are why I don't kill people. All your healthy cells have abundant amounts of it, and when I inject you with the ozone, we're not sure of the pathway yet. Somebody in a research facility will discover it one day when they care. It stimulates healthy cells to make more of those antioxidant enzymes. So we're not going to harm the healthy cells in your body, but we're going to get into any cell that isn't and destroy what's there. Side effects. Okay? Hair and nails grow longer, stronger, healthier, and faster. Skin takes on a healthier look because it gets rid of, I pointed out, all sorts of skin problems. People fall asleep easier, sleep better, need less sleep, more energy all day long. It acts as a painkiller and an anti-inflammatory. It stimulates natural stem cells, and it makes the red blood cells rounder so they flow smoother, easier, less viscous, and more flexible so they can slip through narrowed, clogged, and hardened arteries better. And it melts down calcified plaques, opening up the circulation in the ones that have been clogged up with it. It gets rid of unneeded antibodies and things like that. And there's all positive side effects. Now, I had 9 patients in all these years, talking thousands of patients, develop a temporary rash. So I stopped treating them. Now, in all fairness, only 2 of the 9 had what I would call an allergic response to the thing. And one was a cancer patient who had, supposedly, she had been treated with a combination of chemo and alternative methods by the doc who sent it to me. And now she was apparently gone, and I think we won. She had gotten 70 treatments, and then whole body rash once, whole body rash twice. Now I'll never do it twice. Once is enough to make me worry. And we stopped treating her. Another patient had her throat and tongue start to swell and trouble breathing. A little Benadryl was all we needed. We didn't even have to use an EpiPen. But those are the only 2 true allergic responses that I might say we can have. It's medicine, and it's possible when you treat enough people to have anything, have something like that occur. And the other 7 may have been what we call purging, just purging something from their body. I usually show slides of this to the doctors so that they can see what it looks like. One was on Sister Mary, who made Mother Teresa look like the devil. This was the most wonderful woman we ever met, and everybody loved her. She had breast cancer, and she was looking just to treat it only alternatively. And after we treated her for quite a few months, then she suddenly started to get rashes, and I had to stop treating her too, because if I hurt her, I'd never sleep again for the rest of my life. It can lower the blood sugar slightly for a while. We've had one patient get over the type 2 diabetes. I had trained a group of 12 doctors from Puerto Rico back in 2000. And one of them calls me up and goes, "I just got rid of type 2 diabetes." I said, "That's pretty good. I've never done it. You've done better than me." Well, within a few weeks, I had a woman who came in with Rocky Mountain spotted fever, and we got rid of her type 2 diabetes by chance along the way of getting rid of Rocky Mountain spotted fever. So there's virtually no adverse events or effects you really have to worry about when this is done by trained medical professionals. This is not one of those things where you go out and you can buy an ozone machine on the internet. You can buy needles today illegally, but they'll sell them to you on the internet with syringes. And this is not something for you to go and do yourself at home. And there's a woman who had cancer in Las Vegas whose daughter bought this cockamamie 08 octazone machine from 2 guys who taught the daughter how to treat the mother. The mother died. The men were arrested on murder charges. This is medicine. You do it with skilled, trained doctors. Then it's as safe as drinking purified water, if you got the impression from before, from what I just said. But it's not meant for people to do. Okay? Now, this is, I guess, very important. Does anybody here who know Mike Schachter is? Michael Schachter from New York? Oh, you know Michael. So I worked with Michael for about 3 years till New York State broke his you-know-what's up there and made him tighten up with everything. Michael is one of the number 1, 2 premier alternative doctors for treating cancer. And I got to see every possibility in treatment with ozone, because we had patients that in every stage of cancer, with and without chemotherapy, with and without radiation, and so on and so on. So I got to see what can this medicine do. In almost every patient, and I say almost every because if I said every patient, it would sound not real. But I don't remember a single one, in all honesty, that if they were getting chemotherapy, doing the ozone at the same time, not literally the same moment in time, we were able to offset all the adverse effects of the chemotherapy. So they were able to complete the chemotherapy without wishing they were dead and everyone around them wishing they were dead from the adverse effects of it, and at least get whatever benefits the chemotherapy could give. For the patients that had chemotherapy and were still suffering from it, because I don't care what anybody else tells you, this stuff stays in your body for a long time. And that's why a year, 2 years later, it starts leaching out of storage cells, and suddenly you feel off that day or effects like you were getting chemo, and because we've seen patients with that. And ozone attacking it at that time will stop those adverse effects. I don't know exactly what it's doing because it doesn't stop chemotherapy from working. It just seems to offset the adverse effects of the chemo. Anybody that's had surgery for cancer, okay, will find, well, the doctors find that the surgeries are easier to perform. The lumps pop out, they tell us. The doctor was amazed. He thought it was going to take 8 hours, and it was done in 5.5. The tumors just popped right out. It was he was very impressed. He didn't know why. These were patients that came in prior to their surgery to get prepped for it, to cleanse, detoxify, boost their immune system, and whatnot. Note that in Germany, ozone therapy is offered pre and post-op to prevent infection, and that's mandated by law. You can be on any diet you want to be on with this. You can take any pharmaceuticals that you want with this therapy. You can take any nutraceuticals you want with this therapy, unless you prefer to spell it with a U and call it a nutraceutical. You can do acupuncture, chiropractic. Everybody should be doing chiropractic. If you don't have the right nerve innervation, because your back is out of alignment to all your organ systems, how are they supposed to interact, and how are you supposed to have a strong immune system? The body is not separate pieces. Every part of the body is interactive with every other part of the body. If we focus with tunnel vision on doing one thing, your chances of winning are diminished. I don't care what it is you want to win. You gotta think of the body. That's where they got the idea of calling it holistic medicine. You got to think of the body in its entirety, okay? But you can do anything you want with this. They either ozone doesn't get in the way of them working, or they work synergistically. Now, there are 3 things you must do for my therapy. Most of you, or a good number of you, look like you will understand if I say, if you want to look up the word must in the dictionary, in Webster's dictionary, you know who Webster was. Today, the kids today, they just look it up on Google. There's no such thing as a Webster's dictionary anymore. So the word must does not mean that you have a choice. The word must does not mean that if Grand Central Station is empty at 12 noon on January 1st and there's a total solar eclipse over the entire world, then you'll do it if you feel like it. Must means you have to. Why? It makes the therapy safe and effective. Okay? So the first thing is, and by the way, this is not necessarily in order of importance. It's just the way I like to tell it. The human body is 70% water. Some say 60, but different tissues are 70% water. The average person walks around in a dehydrated state. 10% of all senility is caused by dehydration of the cerebral spinal fluid, which takes place as little as 2 weeks and 6 months to rehydrate your cerebral spinal fluid. Okay? So, if you're walking around dehydrated because you don't like to have to piss a lot, and I'm not going to go into all the things that I lecture on when I talk about dehydration. Well, think about it. The lady's smiling. Many women have had babies. So their bladder, their uterus is now pressing up against their bladder. Or you could have a prolapse bladder, a drop bladder, which presses up against your uterus. Either one, if those two things touch even a little bit, there's pressure receptors that fire, and you got to go. So don't drink water before you leave the house. Don't drink while you're away, and you won't have to constantly be going to the toilet. Okay? Men start to get very dehydrated by the time they hit their 60s. Why? Prostate enlarges. You don't want to have to go. You have trouble going, things like that. Ozone fixes prostate too, by the way. It's great for prostate cancer. Let me tell you about prostate cancer, since you just brought that up. I'm glad I did. So I had a man from my Rotary Club who came to me, and quietly, and he told me how he's had prostate cancer for a long time. It's very bad. And I hear they don't use, I'm not an expert on cancer, by the way. I'm only an expert on how to use ozone to get rid of things like cancer. So he told me that his PSA, which they don't technically use anymore, was 925. And I've seen higher. I've seen as much as 1,300 something. So 925, I said, come on in, get the ozone therapy. He's in my Rotary Club, I don't charge him. And we got 20 treatments in this month of December. This is about 8 years ago. And comes back, he just had a test, it was down to 210. He was elated. Instead of going to the toilet 5 to 7 times each night, he was going to the toilet only 2 to 3 times a night that he was woken up for it. So his wife, who's an RN in a hospital, has to speak to me because he hadn't told her. Now he told her because they were all impressed. So we had a nice conversation and immediately stopped him from coming in. He was dead within a year, and I didn't go to the funeral because I didn't want to meet her and tell her what I thought of her. So be well hydrated. Vitamin C. I told you about Pauling and vitamin C. I have my patients take vitamin C as much as your stomach can tolerate, meaning you don't get an irritated, upset stomach, as much as you can every 2 hours while you're awake. That's 5 or 6 doses a day, stopping a couple of hours before bedtime because I don't want you waking up in the middle of the night to go to the toilet because I made you eat or drink this at bedtime. So I say stop excess water and all vitamin C approximately 2 hours before bedtime, and that was that. Okay? Now, the third thing, all the years I'm doing this, I didn't know I was ahead of myself and the medical world. I've had patients take probiotics. Because if you've had an antibiotic even once in your lifetime, or you eat red meat or chicken that isn't organic or farm-raised fish, okay, you're getting uncooked out doses of antibiotics all the time. All the good boys in your gut are gone. They're all gone, okay? Now, capsules, powders, and tablets don't survive the stomach well. Well, I learned you have to do those on an empty, all probiotics on an empty stomach, but I used to have my patients take enormous amounts of it because what small amount then would survive the stomach and get into the gut hopefully would come out of suspended animation and come back to life and become active, bacteria's active probiotics. Well, the problem I learned later on was the transit time from the small intestine to the large intestine isn't long enough sometimes for enough of these organisms to come back to life. Then I'm going to be lecturing. I just lectured on microbiome. I'm lecturing twice more this year already on it. It'll take me a lifetime to become an expert on it. There's that much to learn. So as much as I think I know, and I may sound like I know a lot, I know this much. There's so much more to learn. But I learned how important it was years ago because ozone can kill good boys, good bacteria. As I said, it kills all bacteria. It can't discriminate. Okay? So we had to put good ones back in. So I'd been using a product for many years until I found out it was never tested for safety. It was a liquid probiotic, and it was never tested for safety, so everything that I owned was on the line if I ever hurt somebody. So I found another company that made a very good probiotic, but not the way I wanted it, and that's why I have to give disclosure, because to get it the way I wanted it, and fortunately I was able to afford to, I bought into the company. When you keep putting another zero behind your offer, eventually they say, okay, we'll take you as a partner. And I made them make it the way I wanted it, and that's why you all got some samples of it today. All right? And on the handouts that you get, you can use, you can get 20 off your order. It's not an inexpensive product. You can get 20% off your order. And then I don't know where the pads are. I have pads. You can give me your email, your name and email address, and I'll see if I have your name and email address and you want this, I will make sure that you can get a permanent bigger discount than the 20%. I'll give you my own code that I use for my patients. So you can get my code and do that if you want. But what's important about this is that what's important about this product is I chose 15 strains of bacteria because you need an adequate number. They have to work and play well with others. They have to survive the stomach. The only way to survive the stomach is you had to get patented bacteria from the largest manufacturer of bacteria in the world, DuPont, unfortunately, one of their subsidiaries. And they all have letters and numbers after their name. And these bacteria, there's actually, I can't believe some of the things I'm telling you because I still don't believe it when I say it. They're called next generation smart bacteria. They have actually been genetically modified so that when they get into your gut, they can populate the wall of your gut and change, I have to say it this way, their genetic expression. So they live more happily and play well and work well with others in the wall of your gut compared to anything else you're going to take. And it could have the same name. It's just they're not next generation versions of that particular bacteria. And it's grown, and I'll end that part of it pretty quickly. It's grown on a 100% because the German Federation has to approve, we have it approved there. And they don't allow USDA approval, which says 95% of the juice can be organic. And it still could be called organic. Germans want 100%. Okay? That's the way it is. Organic mint, kale, lettuce, cucumber, celery, apple, lemon juice in descending order. So it goes from slightly sweet to slightly tart, billions of colony-forming units, and it's just an amazing, amazing product. Well, we're going to get to that. Let me not jump the gun. So there's all the stuff about vitamin C and all the things you need to know about vitamin C. Ozone acts as an antioxidant. Okay. Now, I told you I was going to talk more about how it acts as an antioxidant. And basically, if you read all that, the most important thing is that it's a free radical scavenger. You take carbon monoxide, which you know would kill you and you can't get rid of it, right? And you add it with O3, and you have to, what do you get? The waste product is oxygen, which stays in your blood because you need more oxygen, and carbon dioxide, which you can breathe out. Okay? So basically, if you want it, for the chemists out there, it steals an electron. It's an electron-deficient molecule. It steals an electron from anything that can't defend itself against it and destroys the atom, the molecule. And that's how it works. This is science. It's not cockamamie stuff. Now, then I went and I did some research for the company because I said, you know, how do I know? What is this? You know, why am I getting results sometimes just from the probiotics with Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis and acid reflux, duodenitis, ileitis, and all irritable bowel, leaky gut? Why am I getting results? And I came across some of these articles. There are many more. What I found out was from one of my basic fact searches called Google, is that since 2010, there have been over 66,000 studies and papers written on the gut's connection to the rest of the body. Back then, prior to that, there was still plenty of studies, but nobody read them and nobody cared. Today, every single day, the connection between your gut and the rest of your body is becoming very, very important. The gut heart, the gut brain, the gut mood, the gut nose, the gut affects everything. They're even finding out with pancreatic cancer that there are certain microbiomes on the pancreas that will lead to cancer. So if you can get rid of those biomes, that's where ozone comes in, you can get rid of cancer. So the relationship between gut microbiome, immune system, and cancer. So there's one article. I just want to notice 2019. Here's another one from 2019. Restoration of the gut microbiota via targeted therapies could potentially prevent or reverse the physiological deficits often found in young survivors following chemotherapy. Reduce symptom burden and improve health. Another one, I tried to give you the latest ones. Believe me, you can go back on PubMed and get many, many more. It's very easy to research this. Through manipulation of the beneficial bacteria of the gut microbiota, different treatment options have been explored. Prebiotics and probiotics have been shown to improve outcomes in animal models of cachexia. Now, I made them, if any of you have drunk this, it's better to do it refrigerated, then it goes fast from an empty stomach into your gut. So always refrigerate the bottles, and you don't have to put the whole case in the refrigerator. You take the bottles out. They take up 6 by 9 inches on your shelf, okay? And so in any case, I had them filter the juice less. So you'll notice it has a little texture to it. So we left the natural fibers in it, so it's prebiotic. Less than 4 grams of sugar, so it's low glycemic index for my diabetic patients. Amber glass, so light can't damage it. We're looking for a plastic that GPA free and all the other, doesn't leach, holds won't cause trouble with the acidic levels, because shipping glass is very expensive, and we're hoping to reduce the cost now if we can find a plastic that's suitable. An important scientific innovation rarely makes its way. Now, by the way, this is Max Planck. Max Planck and Linus Pauling were very close friends because, ironically, they were both a double Nobel Prize winner, which is very rare, and both for physics. And an important scientific, by the way, last year, the winner of the Nobel Prize for Medicine were 3 doctors who discovered the importance and the uses of oxygen in our cells. They are opening this up for something to happen that I'm not going to tell you about. Between Lyme disease, Ebola, who knows what will happen with corona, and malaria that we're working on. I trained 3 doctors in Africa. We have contracts with one of them in his hospital to treat malaria. If this works, using my method of ozone, then maybe one day I'll be up there too. At least a nomination. That would be a wonderful thing. So a scientific truth does not triumph by convincing its opponents and making them see the light. But basically, you got to wait until all the people that are against something die off and a new generation of doctors grow up who are familiar with it. And that's why I've been training doctors from all over, because they are the next generation, the new age doctors. Now, I gave a talk. There's another group, but it's only for doctors. And basically, it's all the alternative strategies to fight cancer, but naturally. And this young lady does this out west usually. I was in Reno when she did it the last time. I was there for a whole day with my buddy Robert Rowan and Sylvia Menendez, who was the head of ozone research in Cuba. So we gave a whole day on ozone. And I called the talk Medical Ozone Therapy in the Treatment of Cancer, New or Old. So the point of this was to show, look at it's not what the article is on as much. I want you to see that it's been used and published around the world and translated into English not all, but much of the time. So you can get some of it on PubMed. And look at the dates of the articles, okay? So holistic treatment of tumors, 1960. Ozone is a possible biological modifier for cancer, from Bacci, may he rest in peace. He was a big major researcher from the University of Siena, Department of Physiology, on ozone, wrote 2 books on it. There are books published on it in 1998. Then there's a clinical review. Diseases treated are, in this ozone therapy, a clinical review. It includes cancer and SARS and AIDS, and that's from 2011. Then there's another one on hydroxyl radical and scavengers in health and disease, and it shows how it inhibits the growth of human cancer cells. That's from also 2011. Now you go to 1990. I'm going to rush through this because this is less important. I want to get to questions if you have questions. Chemotherapy, 1990. Furthermore, ozone acts synergistically at least an additive to chemotherapy. Okay. The growth of human cancer cells from lung, breast, and uterine tumors was selectively inhibited. That's 1980, published in Science. Do you see 1980, 1975, 2004, okay, 1990. Now, and 2004, 1990, there were 2004s there. I hope you're going to get a copy of this. It's something you might want to have. 2007, 1999, 2008. Treatment with ozone and oxygen results in a complete remission of the rabbit's squamous cell carcinomas. Okay, they do publish on animal studies before they do it on humans very often. All right, these were basically translated from one book from Germany, and look at the dates: 1974, 75, 82, 73, 87, 75. Dozens of articles. Look, more. This was just one whole section on, and this book, by the way, dates back to 1984 or something like that, that they translated. Okay, so look at all the different articles. Do you get the point? There is nothing new about the treatment of ozone and with cancer. Now, can we play this? Double click. No. Hold on. How do you raise the sound on here? I'm going to do that, but I got to figure. I only know Apples. How do you raise the sound? Oh, there it is. Let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of that. Let's go back. Oh. Yeah, I could put the microphone near it, but the problem is there's no sound coming out of the show here. That's probably why. I only got a couple of minutes, so I'm going to tell you what Seth is saying. He had colon cancer that metastasized to his liver and whatnot. And his markers went down from 954, 950 something. Within just a few months of treatment, it went down to only 54. And he looks pretty healthy there, right? And this is one of my sad stories again. I don't like to get too emotional because we became good friends, as I do with some of my patients. And he decided he can't just leave well enough alone and just keep staying healthy and living with this for years. And he decided to do an immune boosting therapy, okay, that absolutely guarantees it won't do any harm, but it'll just boost your immune system. So he went into the hospital and did it, had an allergic reaction to it, and I didn't want to show you the picture of me. I was the last person left next to his wife and mom and dad to be with him the night he passed away. And you take this young, healthy, vibrant man, and you see him gone. And it's just a sad thing to see. Let me take questions. If you can get that to work, fine. But let me take questions while I have a couple of minutes left. Yes?
Go to the microphone. There's one over here, too.
Questions?
Hocket?
No, please ask from the microphone.
I tell my associate, Dr. Tannenbaum.
The ozone hocket.
Yes.
thing,
I tell him, you better keep hocking the hockets, because we have one in the office. And hocket is a special type of ozone sauna, but it does more than just that. You sit in this big, beautiful looking, modern, Star Trekking box, and your head sticks out, and it heats your body up, so you're getting some hyperthermia, which they use at the St. George Clinic for treating cancer in Bavaria. In case you don't know about the St. George Clinic, some of you may know that. They do hypothermia there, but in a much more risky way. You're in an ICU while they're doing that. Well, in any case, hypothermia destroys cancer, we know that. So anyway, heats the body up, uses carbon dioxide and ozone in the gas that it creates inside to open up your circulation, and then you get transdermal ozone. It's also using photon light therapy. Light has energy, and you won't see it, but it's bing-banging off the insides of this machine while you're in there. It uses far infrared, which we know is a great detoxer. And does anybody here know who Rife was?
Yes.
So it uses, Rife is gone, don't buy Rife machines. But microcurrents is what Rife used, vibrational energy. And this machine gets set to the microcurrents that you might need. The cheapest one you can get is $37,500, and the ones with the PEMF, which you don't really need, run $52,000. So it's not for the average person to buy for the house. But it's a wonderful therapy. And we use it to open up circulation so we can do the IV ozone afterwards if patients have problems with that. Next question.
Good morning, and thanks for the lecture. My name is Dr. Mines. I'm from Washington, D.C., and I do treat patients with cancer. How do I get set up with ozone therapy?
Do my training. Talk to me afterwards.
Thank you. Also, another question. The vitamin C IV that we give, you mentioned 50 grams. You don't go any higher than that?
We did. Don't get shocked. I used to do up to 200,000 milligram vitamin C drips. Today, they would cost a fortune. Okay, we were buying vitamin C for $5.62 a vial back in the day.
Right.
I used 800 vials every 2 weeks, so it was amazing.
So do you think
we found something bad happened. When you went above 50,000, the cancers seemed to do better. So we learned, Pauling may be right, 20, 25, we use 25 to 50,000, 25 or 50,000, and that's a much safer range to be in.
And ozone
does the killing that the extra vitamin C used to do in minutes and for a lot less money.
And you do the ozone after the IV vitamin C?
No,
there's no problem. Before?
You wait 30 minutes.
Okay.
So the ozone is gone, and then you do the vitamin drip.
So thank you. I will talk to you. Thank you.
Yes.
So thank you for your talk. It's a great affirmation. I'm a big ozone therapy fan. I did it in Mexico, and I'm currently doing it, but what's your take on ozone with ultraviolet blood irradiation? Because the place I go to actually does both together, and you didn't really mention anything about that today.
That's right. Well,
I'd love your opinion on it.
Well, that's good, because we use it. And we don't just use ultraviolet blood irradiation, we use the #1 best, latest Star Trek-y machine also. It's called hemolumin. And we use it in conjunction with a blood method of ozone called hyperbaric high-dose ozone with multipass. Okay, with multipass. And multipass, blood comes out of your body into a glass collection bottle by vacuum in 2 minutes, 200 cc's of blood. We ozonate it through this German machine in the bottle, creating a high pressure in there, hyperbaric, you're not in a chamber, that pushes the blood back into you in 2 minutes. 5 minutes per pass, and without stop, we do it 9 more times. So we've now effectively treated half the blood in your body in about 40 to 50 minutes. My time is up. Well, listen, I'm not going anywhere. I'm here through lunch. And if you wish, you can, I won't be in the room with other speakers, but I don't think it's appropriate. But I'll be outside, and if you want to come up and ask me questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Oh yeah, we need those yellow pads back with your name and email address on it if you want to get that special discount. If you haven't, come on out and I'll let you sign up and get it too. Thank you very much.